And welcome back. So, Lee, what are we going to do in this video? Start making some adjustments to some of the files that are there?
Yeah, it's been a while since we've gone through this code, or that I've even gone through some of this seven or session 7 code,
hmm
and I've made many changes and many versions since we've last recorded these videos.
So, how do you propose we go through making the changes to keep things as little confusing as possible?
Well, what I'm going to do is, as you saw in the last couple of videos, we just set up the new project, copy all the folders, and we brought in all the code that we had before, at least the stuff that I haven't completely thrown away.
hmm
So what I'm going to do now is go through our little solution explorer, starting at the top and going file by file and just making adjustments that are different from this version to the version I've got now. Now,
Okay.
these are little minor changes that I've put in that have added the functionality, streamlined the process a little bit, or just corrected little bugs that I found here and there.
Okay.
So we'll be going through those. Now, this isn't anything major. This is just things getting us ready for the major changes. The major changes are going to be after we've cleaned up the rest of these files.
Gotcha.
This is just code that is worth keeping and reusing. Once we finish that, from that point forward until we get to the sculpting system, almost everything that you see is going to be new in some way or form. Still based off of the same premises, like when we get to creating the train mesh. It's still the base premise that we had before with placing vertices and calculating out the UVs and the normals. We just do it in a slightly different way, which just requires fresh code.
Okay.
So, and let's start off with our, well, first off, let me go ahead and close all of these. And then we'll just open up our first one, which is going to be iDemo. It's just an interface, and to this interface I've added one additional method, which is going to be fixed update. This is just so I have the ability to leverage fixed updates in the entire system in addition to regular updates, which means I need to go to train demo and implement fixed update. And this will be kind of one of our very first performance tweaks. I don't need to draw our debug information every single frame. So I'm going to move it in fixed update. So now I'm only going to run it about 50 times a frame or 50 times a second. So a little bit of performance, not much, but it helps. So we use that inside of,
Terrain demo.
which means train demo, which is going, well, that's train demo. That means I need to go to game manager. And inside of game manager, I also need to make a void fixed update,
And a call to it.
which is going to call the demo dot fixed update. So that will take care of those. So I can close this, and this all started with iDemo. So iDemo is taken care of. Simple enough, but isn't it the way it always starts?
Yeah.
All right, now the next one we're going to look at is going to be the first of our features, that being our config class. So since we are going to be working with our config class, it would help if we had the config ini file, which we don't have right now. So if I go into one of these folders, figure out which one I need to be in. This is the old one. I can go to libraries. Let's go to train R&D, VTM version, train 09, train editor. And let's see, there's our config. But if you look, our config file is empty. There's nothing here. That's because our config class will create an empty folder with an empty ini file if none exist. So we need to get one that we have already. So if I go to here, VTM versions. Let's go to train 07, and I'm going to grab our config file from here and drop it over here, and cancel. No, because I want to copy that and not remove it. Okay, so copy and replace. So now we have information, which is good. It's always good to start with some information. So, and of course, I closed it too, didn't I? Nice. All right, so let me go back and open that up. VTM versions, train editor, config. Let me drop this on our editor. Okay. Now, we're going to make some fairly drastic changes here. We're going to set our world size to 81920. Map size is still going to be 2048. Max height is going to be set to 512. All right, now, patch row count and goes away completely. Now, our patch vertex count is now going to be called vertex count, and we're going to set it to 9. Patch vertex spacing becomes vertex spacing. It gets set to 4. Patch update delay goes away completely. It doesn't exist. I should also mention, I don't think I have in all of that intro stuff mentioned that vast speed performance that you saw in the train viewer is without using multi-threading. All the optimizations that we're doing with this new system means that we don't have to rely on multi-threading to generate our patches. Doesn't mean that we're not using it. I do use it to go through and perform some cleanup maintenance on the vertex cache system, which we'll go over. So it's still going to be used, and we're going to use it quite a bit throughout the MMO. It's just with the new train system, we didn't need it anymore. So if we don't need it, we don't use it.
That's right.
So, all right. Now, these settings, for all you guys that follow all my videos exactly and then can't figure out why things don't look exactly the same, these are the ones you want to pay attention to. So we're going to keep smoothing iterations to 5. I'm going to set smoothing amount to 0.15. Low frequency is still going to be 0.1. Mid frequency is going to be 0.25. Our high frequency is going to be set to 1. Very high frequency is going to be set to 4. I'm setting blend ratio 1 to 0.5, blend ratio 2 to 0.55, blend ratio 3 to 9, blend ratio 4 to 0.4, and beach bias value is going to be 5. Now, minimap is completely gone from the system, so we're not going to have any settings for it. So I'm going to scroll up one more time so you guys could get a full view of the ini file. These are the settings that you want to have for now. This is what we're going to go forward with for the foreseeable future until I decide to change my mind again, which I completely reserve the right to do. So learn that from my wife, but don't tell her I said that. All right, now to our config system. Now, for the most part, this is going to stay the same, but we're going to add some more functionality to this. Now, I saw this. I know FatGav did it, and I believe that there was somebody else that had posted the recommendation, and for the life of me, sorry, I can't remember everybody's names. I'm terrible about that. But what they had recommended and what they had implemented were a few helper methods that got put into place for basically checking for or querying for our methods. If you remember before, I think train generator is a good example of this, where I was doing the int.parse config.setting.max height. I've got some helper methods that we're going to be putting in here that are going to be get int, get float, get string, and that will do this parsing and return it automatically for you. So, and do some error handling possibly. So, well, a little bit of error handling. So that will take care of some of that stuff for us. Now, one of the other things that I want to do before I get completely into the wrong file and lose where I am is I'm going to switch up our stream reader here, and I'm going to change this to be a using statement real quick. And just all the way down here. Go ahead and close that, which means I can get rid of this. So that was the only real change there. Now we're going to create the 3 helper methods. Those are going to be, oh yeah, this is a namespace, so I need to go here. Make sure I'm in the right place. So we're going to make a public static int called getInt. And this is going to take in a string, entry, and then we're going to basically go if settings or setting.contains key. So we're going to do some error checking to make sure that the entry exists before we do anything with it. If it exists, we're going to return the int.parse setting dot, or not dots, but element entry. So that will take care of that. And then if it doesn't exist, I'm going to return 0. Not, it's not perfect error handling, but it's not going to blow anything up. And not blowing stuff up is better than bad values. But this will bite you too if you're not careful, because I found that if you put the wrong thing in, which is kind of funny, actually, because what will happen is if you put the wrong value in and you don't realize it, it will do things like make your train completely flat, or you won't have your train at all.
Right.
So, and now that I think about it, there's an easy way to fix that as well, and I'll do that in a sec, or at least to indicate that. So, debug.error, log error. Let's see, the entry plus entry was not found. There. That'll save you some trouble. Wish I had that when I found the problem the first time. Okay, so now we will do a float parse for entry. And then this one will be get string. And this will just return setting.entry. And make that a string. Int to string. Where am I doing that? Hey, yeah, right there. Okay, good. Now I'll just return an empty string. All right, so those will be our 3 helper methods for dealing with information, so we don't have to parse everything out in our code. So that will take care of the changes for config. I'm going to leave this one open because otherwise I'll have to go get it every single time. Train generator, I'm going to close for now. We're going to look at our FPS counter. I don't think I made any changes in this one, but I just want to check. Yeah, I fat fingered that one. So is initialized. Let's run through here real quick. And yeah, I didn't think so. FPS counter stayed intact. It's one of the few things that didn't get changed. All right, so that takes care of that one. That one. Close that. Closing files on my other system. All right, now override enabled. Cursor. And it looks like in this one, mouse lock survived as well. Because, yeah, override enabled was something I put in for the sculpting system. So that's already been put in place. So that's taken care of. Now noise. If I remember right, there was stuff that I had to fix in noise, but I don't remember if we fixed it and discussed it already or not. That's the get value, get values, energy. Yeah, I think we already covered the fixes that I did in there. Because you remember there was some problems with the way I was iterating through stuff?
Vaguely. No,
Yeah, it's
not
been
really.
a very, very long time ago. If not, I'll find it and we'll bring it up later. But I think that was just in the noise. The Perlin noise, the simplex noise, and value noises also didn't change.
Okay.
So it was just the noise one that I wasn't sure about. What I'll do later off camera is I'll run that through a file compare.
Okay.
And I'll see if there's any differences between my version and that version, and we'll pick it up. It's just a little bit too much code to try to go line by line through right now. So that will take care of mouse lock config, and it's fine. Game manager, we've already compared. Train demo is there. Train generator. This one's got some changes to it. All right, so one is all of these get to be changed now. So instead of config setting, this is config get int. And resources, this will be config get string. And I need one more of those. All right, so that takes care of those. The map information stays the same. And if for some reason this blows up and starts giving you all kinds of errors, remember to go check that texture that we created. Make sure that you set it to 240 or 2048. Otherwise, you'll get all kinds of errors and you'll be wondering why you're getting the errors, particularly out of bounds errors. So, but that's where they'll come in from. All right, so get smooth height. Now, get smooth height, I made some changes to as well. All right, so we're going to change this to vertex spacing, get int, and full spacing divided by 2. All right, so that takes care of those. 6 smooth iterations. This gets changed to get int. And yes, I know I changed this from a float to an int. So I need to, in this case, will I need to change that? Let me think. I know this is going to stay in int for our purposes, but at least as far as we're using, but to be accurate, we probably should just make it a float. So this one is a get int. Because technically, if somebody wanted to make a spacing of, say, 0.25 or a half, they can. But if we force this to an int, then they won't be able to have that flexibility.
Right.
And I don't want to take away flexibility if I don't have to. All right, so that's our smoothing iterations. Now, and let me go back to config. So, smoothing amount. Yeah, there's a smoothing amount here, right? Yeah, smoothing amount. So, but I'm not using it, so we're going to use it. So this will be config dot get float and smoothing amount, just to be safe. Smoothing amount.
Yeah, you got it.
I'm paranoid. All right, so now we got all these fun ones to change. All right, so I change one and then copy and paste. Come on. So there and there. Sometimes I like magic numbers better. But they don't have flexibility. And come back and grab this one. Whoops. And need to go on a diet. My fingers are getting too fat.
That bad, huh?
Yep, keep hitting the wrong keys.
Yeah, they're just getting excited. Getting ahead of yourself.
Yeah. That's fun stuff.
Very cool, without a doubt.
Except when you're trying to figure it out for the first time. Then I've got different words to describe it. So we get all that. And these guys are
Did you
mad at
intend
me.
for the world size to become a float?
No. It needs to be an int. But I was being lazy and hoping that the compiler wouldn't catch it. But apparently it caught it. All right, so that should take care of all the train generator modifications for the most part. Let me check. All right, so get smooth height. Let's see, did I make any other changes? Oh yeah, I changed adaptive from 5 to 10, just so I could get a little bit more effect out of it. And inside of here, did I change anything there? No, doesn't look like it. That looks all the same. All that code looks the same. And all that code looks the same. Okay, so everything there looks the same. That brings us down to threading.
Are there a lot of changes throughout threading?
No, a little bit here and there, not much.
Okay. So you think we're getting pretty close to the end then?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
So, probably only a few more minutes.
Okay, cool.
So if I go ahead and close train generator, I think most of the changes that I had made were namespace stuff here, and then commenting out the stuff what we already did to make it work.
Okay.
Which was getting rid of the status stuff. This.
Okay.
So, and let's see. So run while quit and okay. While not. Oh, I re-implemented some of this stuff. Yeah. Okay, I remember that. Okay. Some of the way that we implemented the quitting stuff, I wasn't really happy with. So I've changed a little bit, but not much. Basically, I've changed this method to a private static bool is quitting.
That method or that property?
It was a property,
Okay.
but wow, that was interesting. Control X, Control V, static. Okay, so basically what I've done is I've changed a property into just a field, and then I turned it into a method. Because what I want to have is match more what you're used to seeing from threading, which is a command to quit
Mm-hmm.
or stop. So I didn't like having to set a value. I prefer to just send a command for quit. So while not is quitting, that will take care of that. And then, so what I've also done is look at this worker thread cleanup. Gets available threads. So now I've got this here. So waiting for thread. I've also set my state equal to stack. Wow. State equals, and that's right, I haven't added that yet either. So we've got starting, idle, but I also want to have a waiting. So this is going to be equal to waiting. So as opposed to having these guys in place, I was just using the states again. So that gives us a waiting. And then we go to thread cleanup. The cleanup goes here, stop, that's fine there. We scroll down, and then the next ones are processing, idle, stopping, which is all of them. Good. Then we can just get rid of these. That gets rid of the errors for that. Print queue.
Priority queue?
Yeah.
That thing.
Yeah, the priority queue, print queue. Nice. Okay, that one survived. I didn't make any changes, but I do need to make a little side note here that got brought up. That if you look at closely at the operation of this, and the way it works is the fact that we can promote an object to a higher priority. Basically, it looks to see if you enter in an item or an object into this thing, and if it is contained in one of the lower level lists, it will promote it to the to the higher list, but it won't demote it. But it will also ensure that if a list, it will continue to promote, and it will prevent you from adding an item into the same priority, but you could technically add an item to a lower priority. So let's say you had an object that was in high and then you resubmitted it with a low priority, you could stack up a low priority behind a high priority. The system just doesn't stop that from happening. But it does ensure that you can't, if you add an object, the same object, and give it a higher priority, it doesn't duplicate two objects. You won't have a high priority and a low priority. It will just promote that lower priority item to a higher priority. That was something that Fat Gav pointed out, and then somebody else posted at pretty much the same time. It was funny. But I just wanted to point out, yes, that is possible. So priority queue is fine. Unity dispatcher, let's see. Now this guy, I made some changes to that were a little bit different, but I'm not sure. They were testing purpose ones, and I'm not sure if I want to implement those or not. So let's look at how I've got these set up. And all right, so now I've got it on time-based. What I had done with experimentation is right now this condition is based off of elapsed time. Basically, it's taking 1/100th of a frame or a delta time. So I was looking at the total seconds, make sure that the total seconds is 1/100th of whatever the frame elapsed time from frame to frame is, to make sure that you're not executing too many instructions. So that was the one way I implemented it, and I was experimenting with another technique that would basically set an update interval where if your frame rate was greater than 100 frames a second, it would run pretty much flat out. And then if you dip below 60 frames, it would only allow one instruction a second, or an instruction every one per frame. And then if you drop below 30 frames, it would only allow one every other frame, and then 15 every third. And if you went below that, it was every fourth. So it's just different mechanics that I was experimenting with the Unity dispatcher. But with the new train system, the way I'm doing it, there's a different system that is pretty much the same as Unity dispatcher, but I've tuned it a little bit differently to deal with just patches. So this is just fine for here, so we don't have to worry about it. I was just wondering if I was going to put that code in or just leave it. But for now, I'm going to leave it. But I just wanted to know that that was another possibility for optimizing the amount of dispatches that get called in a single frame.
Okay.
And let's see, we'll leave that. And then that gets us into worker thread, which I don't believe changed. Nope. Worker thread, that also didn't get changed. We've nuked out the test worker thread, so we don't have to worry about that. And then we've got iUnity dispatch here, which didn't change. And then we've got Unity dispatch, which shouldn't be in abstracts. It should be up one. So, and then Unity dispatch namespace should be Unity dispatch abstracts. I just overlooked that, which means this is going to complain, and this one's going to complain. So that should fix those. All right, so that takes care of those. And then we've got utils here, which I'm going to leave for now. And when we start messing around with the camera systems, what I ended up doing was getting rid of these and just embedding the code directly into the camera code.
Okay.
So, but I'm going to leave that for now. They're not hurting anything. We're just not going to use them. So that should take care of everything with getting the rest of the code up to par with what we're going to do. Like I said, nothing really drastic. Just some minor tweaks here and there, cleaning up code, making sure the namespaces were done, adding some functionality in a couple of places, and then implementing that functionality. As far as the real stuff, that's what we're going to start getting into next.
Okay. So is that pretty much everything for this video?
Yep.
All
I
right.
think that's enough. This one probably went on for a little bit longer than I...
It's all good. All right,
Yeah.
then. With that, that is going to wrap up this video. Thanks a lot.